Well, some unhappy police in Arizona as the country learns that the Attorney General Eric Holder, who has been very quick to criticize Arizona's new immigration law, has yet to actually read the law.
I think that law is an unfortunate one. I think that it is, I fear, subject to potential abuse.
Arizona. What is specifically wrong with the anti-immigration law that has been passed there?
The concern I have about the law that they have passed is that I think it has the possibility of leading to racial profiling.
Do you think the Arizona immigration law is racist?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea.
Well, it was at a hearing at the House Judiciary Committee yesterday that Holder admitted he hasn't even read the legislation of which he's been so critical.
I understand that you may file a lawsuit against the law. It seems to me the administration ought to be enforcing border security and immigration laws and not challenge them, and that the administration is on the wrong side of the American people. Have you read the Arizona law?
I have not had a chance to. I've glanced at it. I have not read it.
It's 10 pages. It's a lot shorter than the health care bill, which was 2,000 pages long. I'll give you my copy of it if you would like to have a copy. Even though you haven't read the law, do you have an opinion as to whether it's constitutional?
I've not been briefed yet.
This, as Arizona police say nationwide outrage over the law is making it nearly impossible for them to do their jobs. Paul Babule is a sheriff out in Arizona, in Pinal County, and he's my guest now. All right, Sheriff, thanks so much for being here. Now, this law doesn't go into effect until August, but you are saying that this. Let me just start with what the president has said. You know that this is going to result in kids going out to get ice cream and they're going to get stopped. The families are going to get stopped to ask for their papers. You got the Attorney General, who you just heard in those clips, has been very critical of the law. What is that doing for you and other law enforcement officers like you?
You know, it's not surprising to me that the president himself and here our Attorney General would undermine not just the rule of law, but undermine the authority of a police officer in America. It's very troubling to me to have the most innocent picture painted in people's minds of a father and his son or daughter with an ice cream, and then enters the cop demanding papers from that Hispanic person. It's outrageous. We would never do that. That's not how we do business. And in fact, that this law mirrors the federal law and is in fact more restrictive. It actually prohibits us even considering using race, color, or national origin in our consideration in any lawful stop. So our officers in my office, we have over 200 of my staff that are Hispanic, Latino. We're profiling criminals and criminal behavior, not a person's race, color, or national origin. And it's very easy for these people outside of our state to think that it's not even an issue. Here, the Attorney General doesn't even read the darn law, and we have crime that's out of control here in our state. And we have had officers killed by criminal illegals. We have carjackings, home invasions, all of these things where even law enforcement leaders like myself are calling literally for troops to be deployed with Senator McCain's plan to the border to stop this.
You know, we saw earlier in this show, Sheriff, a clip from the Attorney General refusing to use the terms radical Islam, or he was very reluctant to do it. Ultimately, he did, but he was very reluctant to do it. And the argument that we had was that perhaps he didn't want to pour fuel on that fire. You know, he didn't want to sort of raise the rhetoric and stir that pot. Do you feel like they have shown the same restraint with respect to Arizona?
Not only has not shown the same restraint, here they've made a job for law enforcement that is already difficult, especially in Arizona, that much more difficult to do our jobs. And instead of protecting terrorists and all these people who are not our citizens, how about standing up for citizens and Americans? Instead of kicking us in the chops, we're the protectors of our families and our communities. And it's outrageous that these leaders in Washington can sit back, don't even have the courtesy to read our law, yet they go out there and criticize us and call us racist and all these other things. And it's just shameful that they would do that to us.
What do you make of the fact? I mean, were you surprised to hear the Attorney General admit, after all he said about the law, that he has not yet even read it?
Well, at least he's honest. You know, it's troubling that if you're going to be the top prosecutor in America, and this is a very important issue about securing our border and building the dang fence, then all of these people haven't even read our law. And here we've had to take action in our own hands because the federal government has refused to protect our state and to protect our families. And of all the illegals that come into America, hundreds of thousands, 1 million, it could be 2 million a year, more than half of them enter Arizona. That's why we're screaming about this problem, and our governor was very proud to sign this law, and we've got to do something. And in the absence of federal action, local law enforcement shall protect our families.
You know, Sheriff, the criticism is, and the reason I'm guessing President Obama and Attorney General Holder have made the comments they have is that they don't mean to malign the good intentions of any one particular police officer, but you never know. You can't speak for all police officers, and the potential for racial profiling exists.
Well,
I'm guessing that would be their argument.
Well, you know what? Here you protect and you give me and every law enforcement officer in America, you entrust us with this awesome authority to suspend a citizen's constitutional rights and freedoms to take somebody under arrest or to even use lawful and lethal force. We could take somebody's life, and it's legal. Nobody else has that power and authority, yet the president questions the fact whether we can get to the point in building reasonable suspicion and probable cause in a dispassionate environment to ask the questions, where are you from? And based on the fact that, hey, maybe in a traffic stop a person has a Mexican national identification card, that's a legitimate question for our cops to be asking these people when we have hundreds of thousands of them that are here and we're paying for everything for them, and 17% of them have already established a criminal record here.
Well, you know, the Attorney General said earlier this week that he is considering whether to challenge, but whether to mount a challenge to that Arizona law. One assumes
he should first read the law.
One assumes he's going to have to do that prior to that. Sheriff, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Megan.
Appreciate your perspective.